Just wait a second. Did that last time?
Great. We're ready.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this webinar today. It's called How to Handle Insecure Attachment. I'm really excited because I have two of my best friends and a couple that I admire the most who are in love. And it's Jennifer Russell and Bryan Franklin. And
great to be here.
Yeah, these two have really been mapping relationships, intimacy, what gets in the way of intimacy, what feeds it. And in particular, they've been researching lately a really interesting and popular framework for relationships around attachment patterns, different insecure attachment patterns, and how to move through them, how to work with them. And just hearing them speak about it and what they've been discovering, I really wanted to bring their best ideas to you guys today. And I'm just going to be asking them questions. And I'd like to introduce Jennifer Russell and Bryan Franklin, who I love.
Oh, thank you, Annie. What a pleasure to be on with the cartographer of love herself for us to jam on this topic. You know, Bryan and I have gotten just countless posts and questions and even just our clients talking to us about this kind of phenomenon called attachment theory. So we decided that we weren't happy with all of the state of the art on it, and we wanted to really dive in and maybe add to some of our understandings around that. So let's dive in.
Yeah, it's a really powerful model. I'd love for you to share with us what we're going to learn today from you guys. What are you going to focus on?
Yeah. So first we need to talk a little bit about what attachment theory is. And there's some things that we love about this as a model, and there's some things that we don't love about it that we actually that could.
I know you'll upgrade the models you learn about.
Exactly. Sorry. So we need to talk about what it is first of all, and then we're going to unveil some pattern interrupts for your attachment, your insecure attachment patterns, so that you can start to create secure attachment and a kind of healthy, happy relationship that you want. So we're going to give you some pattern interrupts. We also want to tell you about an extraordinary event coming up in San Francisco the first week in November. And the last thing is we've got a set of free videos and audios, these meditations. One is like an SOS for, when you're doing your pattern, you can hit the SOS button and play this meditation in your ear and reset your nervous system. And then one is like a maintenance program that if you do it every day, 5 days a week for 5 weeks, you're going to have a complete transformation in how you love. So, and we're going to give all that away for free.
Yeah. And
so stay till the end.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, let me dive into what attachment theory is and just the brief overview of it so that we're all having a common language in this dialogue for all of you guys listening. You know, basically attachment theory, divides the world into three groups. The first group is, the people that fundamentally know that they're loved, deserving of love, and good at loving others. These people are likely to have really happy, healthy love relationships. And in those first 7 years, primarily in those first 7 years of development, as you're growing up, and even more in relief that first year or two of your development, when you were questioning, am I loved and lovable? If your answer to those questions, am I loved and lovable, was a profound yes with no hesitation in those first early years, then you're said to be securely attached, primarily, of course, to your parents, but just to love itself, that you have a secure feeling around your ability to get love and receive love. And sadly, this is a more rare than it sounds like it ought to be in our world, which is why attachment theory, I think, is gaining a lot of look from people. So go ahead.
It's just one of the things I really love about attachment theory, because we have to give it up for the science. Woohoo! There's been a kind of an instinctual belief that the way we were loved and the way that we were parented as children makes its way into the way we love in our romantic relationships, and there's something kind of obvious about that. However, what attachment theory did is really did the scientific study to notice that, in fact, the exact attachment patterns that you exhibited in childhood showed up later in relationships. So that's kind of cool, that it's not just hocus pocus or woo woo. It's actually backed by some awesome research.
Yeah.
And in your guys working with couples and mine, we've seen this play out empirically.
Over and over. And here are the other two categories. Just as you watch, how does this play out? If let's say your answer to that question, am I loved or lovable, isn't a resounding, confident yes, And that's when you're the other two categories. So just really quickly, if you're insecurely attached tending towards anxious, that's one of the patterns. And, these people with the anxious patterning, fundamentally, they fear abandonment, and, you doubt if you're loved, and most of the people that have this kind of patterning, and see if you recognize yourself in this patterning. All of you on this call, look for where you might have some of this patterning and realize that it's a continuum, right? So you may not exhibit the real extreme versions of this pattern, but notice how even subtly you have some of this insecurity running your life and showing itself in your relationship. So the anxious pattern, they are trying to close the gap between themselves and those that they love, often leaving very little room in between. So the people they love often feel smothered, or that they come across needy or clingy. Someone who has the anxious patterning think that their love is threatened, like with really common behavior, like what we would some of us would consider normal, healthy, autonomous behavior, like, let's say, an anxious pattern person might fear abandonment and rejection if, let's say, I wanted to spend a weekend apart, or maybe if I had a different interest. If we have different interests than our partner, an anxious pattern would be like, oh my God, they're leaving me because they don't like the same things I like. Or even like sleeping without touching on a hot night because you're hot and you're not all the way cleaned up. They might then interpret that behavior as somehow rejection, and you're leaving me and I'm not loved, right? Maybe even not being in the mood, right? So if there was a night when you didn't make love, an anxious pattern might interpret that as you don't love me. So that's like an anxious patterning. That's some of what that looks like. So just look for where you might have taken a behavior, like how your partner not texting you right away, or sending you the email, or calling you on the phone. See if you've responded and thought you must not be loved, right? And that would be the anxious pattern. But let's look at the avoidant pattern, and then I want us to maybe tell some stories about some of this in our own life. But so the avoidant pattern, it's really the same fear, right? It's the same fear. It's the same, am I loved or lovable? And they still aren't confident about that answer, but they have an opposite kind of reaction to how they deal with the fear that they might not be loved. These people fundamentally fear being engulfed, right? They doubt if they can love fully, and continually try to create more distance between themselves because love isn't safe. They're worried about getting hurt. So it's actually safer for me to keep him at a distance than for me to vulnerably let him all the way in. And that would be more of the avoidant patterning, and so they love, and they often leave their loved ones with a feeling that they're aloof or standoffish. Someone who has the avoidant pattern, like, they might think that freedom and individuality, like their freedom and individuality, is threatened when their partner's just expressing like normal, healthy closeness, right? Like if you're avoidant, you might feel like your individuality and your sovereignty and your freedom is being threatened if your partner wants to interrupt you with like a little kiss when they go to work, right? Or maybe they want to spend multiple nights together. Oh my goodness, multiple nights in a row. This person is taking over my life, right? Exactly. Or wanting to drive together instead of be in separate cars, or wanting to hold hands, in arm in arm. And those behaviors, which we might consider normal, or someone who is secure might consider normal, they might have an alarm bell that goes off and says, wait a minute, this person is threatening my ability to be separate and free and independent. So I thought, Annie, before we get into stories, that we would do a little poll. Like, wouldn't it be fun to know, like those of you on this call, what do you see? So I'm going to put the poll up. And so
it can be anonymous, right? They can just say,
it's totally anonymous. We're just going to see
who's anxious, who's avoiding
pattern you have. So are you securely attached? You can select that one. You can select if you're more anxious or you're more avoidant. So go ahead and
give them a little way to, like, a question to ask. Like, maybe the avoidant person is always like, give me space. And the anxious person is, why don't you want to hang out with me?
Yeah, totally.
And the secure person is, I'm good. Either way, it's all good.
Yeah.
And like, we all have been there in different parts of our life, but right now in a relationship, where is everybody feeling that? Are they answering?
Yeah, they're totally answering. I'm going to tell you how it's going, and the numbers are changing. So go ahead and let us know. So far we've got about, let's see, what is it? 1%? Is that one? Oh, 11%. Sorry, I have to get my glasses on. 11% of you are saying you feel securely attached.
Okay.
Right? So some of you feel, and now that went down to 8%. So maybe we're getting more answers in. And then about 54% of you are saying you're anxious, right? And then about 33, the numbers are changing. 33% are saying that you're avoidant, right? So we've got some, the majority of you are recognizing some of these patterns. So I think this webinar is going to be really valuable.
And it's it's normal. So we're seeing like 60 to 30 or 65 to 35% anxious to avoidant, and that's because this is a webinar on love, and avoidant people, many of them are avoiding this webinar. So it's actually more in the population. It's more evenly split, for each and each. But if you congregate people who are wanting to think about and talk about, work on their love lives, there's going to be more anxious people than avoidant.
Well, yeah, the avoidant people aren't going to show up. They're like, no way do I want to.
They're married or dating the ones that are on the call. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So so I just special shout out to the avoidant people on the call for being here and not avoiding the call. That's awesome.
Yeah. Do you guys have a couple minutes just to tell us what kind of family of origin patterns usually cause anxious or avoidant? Is that something?
Yes. In fact, we're going to dive into this super deeply, but it's interesting because it almost doesn't matter what your parents do or don't do, because you might have the kind of parents that are really overt about it, where your pleas for attention went unanswered and you were neglected. But it could be, just so you realize you're not crazy out there, it could be as simple as there you were, 12 months old, a year old, and you wanted your mom's attention and you were reaching up to her and the phone rang. And in that moment, your mom or your dad turned away and answered the call. And in that moment, as simple and innocuous as that moment could imprint and say, I reached for mom, I reached for dad, and they weren't there. They rejected me in that moment when she went for the phone call. I must not be loved. So that would be like on one end of the spectrum that might create this, all the way to the end of like total neglect on the other. And that tends to create the avoidance. But on the other side, if you had parents that were super enmeshed in who you were, what you were doing, living vicariously through your life, like they didn't achieve their own sense of meaning and autonomy except through you and except through your accomplishments, you might have felt engulfed, and as a response to that engulfment, you might have gone the other way and gone avoidant because you felt like overmuch, like you just got more attention that you wanted and you weren't able to be autonomous and separate from your parents. And if you didn't fully develop your right to be separate and still belong, right? Because your parents were not kind of allowing you to individuate, then you might have gone avoidant. And these are common. It's not a hard and fast rule, but this is what commonly would create it. And if you had needs for attention and they went neglected, then you didn't fully develop your right to need in that moment. And therefore you have this fear around having needs, and a fear that if you have them, you might get abandoned. And you develop that kind of right to need, usually between 6 months to 12 months old. So these things develop really, really young.
I'd say that also every story is a little bit different. I think the insecure patterning that I have mostly come from my relationship to my older brothers that were, and their,
it didn't have to be your parents.
Their influence over my kind of upbringing environment in the first couple of years. And also, if you're a parent and you want securely attached children, the only thing you can do about that really is to make yourself securely attached and to unwind the insecure patternings. Because if the parents' insecure patternings will imprint on the child to some degree, to a great extent. And then the child will heal some of that and be less insecure than their parents. That's typically what's going to be happening. So, that's why Jennifer was saying it doesn't matter kind of how it expresses itself. What matters is that underneath if you have an insecure attachment patterning in your relationship with your spouse and you have kids, your kids are going to imprint that as their story of love and live that out until they can transcend it themselves by doing our workshops or what, whatever they're going to do.
Well, yeah. Getting support in some way.
Yeah.
And, one of the reasons we're talking about it on this webinar, and even the frame that we take that I think is most valuable for all of you listening, is that attachment theory and our frame on it correctly places a responsibility for the dynamic on both people. So it's easy to understand that if you feel crowded by your lover, like if you're worried that they're going to engulf you, it's actually more likely that you are insecurely avoidant than that they're crowding you. So rather than blaming your partner for these behaviors, like not holding your hand or wanting to spend multiple nights, if you don't understand this theory, you might mistakenly make that an issue about your partner.
Mm-hmm.
And what we want to really get across to you, double underline, is that patterning is way more likely yours than about their behavior. And if you'll actually look at it as yours, that you'll have a way of unwinding it so that you're not sitting there kind of blaming them.
And
so
they both might be there.
Yeah.
But you can only harden you.
Exactly. Now, they might have their own patterning, but if you're reacting to it, then you have your own to work with. Like they might actually be being avoidant in that moment. But if your response is to go into fear that you're not loved and that you're be rejected and that you're interpreting and looking for evidence that they're rejecting you, that's actually more about you than them, regardless of their patterning. So we really want you to fade everybody else out during this call and really look at your own reactions.
This is, I think this is the fundamental relationship error, which is we think that our partner's insanity validates our sanity. Like if we identify that you've got a crazy pattern and you're avoidant and you're just doing that pattern, we think that means that our behavior is normal or sanctified or validated. And more often than not, if your crazy partner is being crazy in that moment, you're probably being the opposite kind of crazy too. And
crazy
so,
yeah,
exactly. Crazy loves crazy. So
well, and anxious and avoidance make a perfect romantic pair.
Tell us how it works with you guys.
Yeah, let's tell some stories.
Well, sure. So I think I'm more anxious than avoidant generally, and that's also been true with Jennifer. Although just as we've been studying this, all these past avoidant moments, in my past relationships were flooding my memory. But I remember one particular moment where Jennifer was unhappy, and Jennifer's unhappiness was like it was a red alert for planet Earth. It was the word, like the fact that she was unhappy, I just couldn't really be with it. And so I was kind of frantically trying to help her not be unhappy, which when someone's unhappy, that kind of frantic energy of like trying to caretake their emotion isn't really what's needed. So that wasn't working. And I just remember she got frustrated. We were working on a project in the desert. She got frustrated and turned away and stormed away. And I think she'd asked, like, she's like, "Where's the ladder?" or something. And I'm like, "I don't know where the ladder is at. I'll try and pull a ladder out of my elbow," or what. I don't know what I said. And then she just stormed away and she was walking away. And I remember feeling like the world was ending, basically. Like there was no way I was ever going to be loved again by anyone, Jennifer or anyone else. In getting a little bit of support and replaying that experience, I was reminded that what actually happened was Jennifer was just upset and walked away in the middle of, like, we all were busy and doing stuff. And all that extra meaning was just me adding that on.
Yeah.
And if I could relax and pay attention to what was actually happening, that gave me a chance to find the source of those feelings, because they were not being sourced by the incident with the ladder.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. It's so true. And I feel like how it sometimes will show up for me. And I feel like, a couple people have said, I just want to call out the chat box, that I've been both. And I feel like when you're insecure, there's a misunderstanding that you're either one or the other. And I actually think if you're insecure, you can be polarized by a particular partner into one or the other. So the more anxious he is, it would polarize me to be a little bit more avoidant. Or if he was avoidant, it would probably polarize me to be anxious. And, the way it showed up, I just remember, from time to time him wanting to like kiss me or say goodbye to me before he leaves, and like I'm like in the thick of doing whatever I'm doing, and like I just remembered a few times just being exasperated, like, why are you interrupting me? God, stop it. I'm in the middle of it. Just wait. It's like I couldn't take 2 seconds or less to just stop and connect and like just give him a kiss and say, oh, of course I give you a kiss. Goodbye. Let me look you in the eye and say goodbye, and that I'll see you soon, my love. Like this doesn't take any time. And I remember watching my patterning get like angry or irritable.
You're getting in my way.
Like he was getting in my way for the half a second that he wanted to have like a kiss or something. And then that had me realize, I'm being avoidant. I'm pushing away his love. And that actually doesn't have to do with him asking me for a kiss. It actually has to do with a fear that I must be having that somehow his behavior means I'm not free and autonomous and safe to assert and be separate. And so it's really nice to notice that when you have an exaggerated reaction to what would be fairly normal, that this is a time to see your pattern. This is time to take a closer peek. And Annie, I want to remind you to get really close to the mic. Some people are having trouble hearing you. So when you talk, just kind of lean in a little bit.
I'm there. How's it now?
We'll have our listeners tell us if does Annie sound better now? Anyone who's having trouble hearing her, you can let them know. Yeah.
I love that story. I want to know what's going through your mind. Is there a story? Like he's out to do, like, how is he the baddie when he interrupts you?
Oh, yeah.
And how is she the baddie when she stomps away in the desert?
Well, it's like she must not care about me. She must not love me. She's just so insensitive to my needs that I haven't expressed and that are, not even real. And she's just not caring about them.
So you get hurt and heartbroken.
It's a real feeling of loss of love. I mean, it's a real rejection, abandonment feeling in that moment for someone anxious.
It feels more like fear than heartbreak.
Got it. So unsafe and scared, like you're actually afraid that you're going to lose her.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the signs that what you're experiencing is created by your pattern and not by your partner, is that it's actually about the future. It's a fear about something that's not happening. So you're literally creating a scenario in your mind and then having an emotional reaction to the scenario you've created and then projecting that on your partner as though they're the cause, which has a reciprocal reaction to the partner, like an anxious person going like this, the partner goes like this, and then it just keeps reasserting itself.
For me, maybe this is familiar to those of you listening, because I've heard a lot of women talk about this, but it's a fear of losing myself in the relationship. Like how often have you heard that one, Annie? I don't know if like women or men come to you and say, gosh, I get in this relationship and then I lose myself. And all the things that I loved about me start to blend and merge into my partner, my, who I hang out with and what I do and my hobbies and my career. And I start to get worried that I'm going to somehow lose me in all of that. And there's a fear of the annihilation of the self. And like somehow I'm less than because I'm merging and not like standing firm in like who I am and who I want to be. And there's a real fear of that, in a relationship. And I think that's the fear that when I feel a little bit engulfed by his attention, that I won't be able to individuate and have my own kind of freedom. But it's like that fear of losing myself that really is in relief. Now it comes in my head, like, you're the bad one, like, oh, you're so needy and clingy. Like, can't you just grow up and stop being a little child, like pulling out after mommy's dress, like, pulling on me for attention and sucking the energy. Like some of the words are like, God, he's sucking all the energy away from me and like needing me. And like, I want him to be whole and complete. And why can't he be whole and complete? And that makes so much sense. I really do think it's him. In those moments, like when I'm in my dunce kind of self and I'm not actually present, so that I'm running my own patterning here and really thinking it's true that it's him, I think he's the one that is got a hole and he needs to fill that void and he's being needy. And my reaction is, of course, anyone would react that way. That's another thing.
There's a
anyone would feel encroached on.
Wonderful projection pattern there, because the avoidants tend to say like, God, why can't they be whole and complete?
Yeah.
But it's actually their own lack of whole and completeness which has them receive that way instead of open and caring about your partner's actual need. And similarly, the anxious pattern projects like, why don't they care about me? Aren't they sensitive to my needs? But meanwhile, they're trampling all over their partner's needs to be alone, to have some space, right?
Yeah. So
it's just wonderful how those projections work. I always get a kick out of it.
I want to draw in a comment from someone who's chatting to us right now, Annie, that says, because this is good, this is relevant. I feel, this is from Maren, I feel that society acknowledges and even applauds the anxious type more than the avoidant. It's considered romantic and loving, whereas the avoidant is called cold. Spoken from the avoidant perspective, haha. So maybe a little admitting that they might be avoidant. But like, is there a societal like romanticization? Like, are we romanticizing the avoidant?
I think avoidant men are romanticized.
I mean, sorry, the anxious.
And anxious women are romanticized. I think, like the rugged loner, who's like, goes off on his own. I'm going to war, honey. I'm, sacrifice all attachments for my mission. I think that's kind of romanticized. And then
and David Data's work, if those of you are familiar with that kind of, he creates a lot of polarity and a lot of gender roles that are really kind of strict or specific, where the men are supposed to be kind of on the avoidance side, right?
But I think you're right. An avoidant woman will definitely could have the label of being cold, and an anxious man is like kind of mama's boy or something like that, So when those two get together, nobody's sexy. But anyway.
I would love to know any misunderstandings that people have around this theory.
Well, when we started studying it and we looked at the book Attached and many of the other sources, one of the things that came up for me was it seemed like the advice was to find and date a securely attached person, and that was going to be their solution, because if you dated someone who was insecure, then they could never help you with your insecure patterning, so you were just kind of screwed. It was almost like the advice that everyone should date someone richer than them or something, and it just didn't.
You better be whole and complete. Yeah, it's like you shouldn't even date if you haven't already fixed this pattern in you, and don't date anyone that has that pattern. And so nobody would be dating anybody. I mean, nobody would be in a relationship if we required everybody to already be either healed or only date those that are secure, because there's so few.
Especially because the pattern itself tends to blame your partner for your own pattern, so you're going to project anyway. So I just didn't resonate with me that the solution was just to date someone secure. Also because I've noticed there's a lot less insecure patterning in our relationship, almost none, after 8 years, than there was when we met. Yeah. And I don't know, I might have given us a 40 or 30% insecure when we met, and now it's down to like 3%. And so there's this other way of resolving your insecure patterning by taking responsibility and partnering with your partner on the secure attachment itself. And so that one misunderstanding of like, you kind of have to choose a partner who's already fixed versus actually get on the evolutionary bus with your partner and both of you transcend your patterns.
Yeah, what better container than to have your partner love you in the place that you're not loving yourself. Like if you're worried that you're not loved or lovable, having a partner, just even the evidence that they're sitting there, even if you don't love every ounce of their behavior every day, they haven't left you yet. You're in this relationship. Just their very presence sort of disproves that you're not lovable. Yeah. And that is a powerful thing. So that's misconception number one, is that when you flip to the book on what do you do about it and only date someone secure, to me, no, you do get together. And somebody asks, well, how do these anxious avoidants even get together to begin with? And that's because they're drawn and attracted. You know, the anxious wants to run after the avoidant, and the avoidant kind of runs away, and they create kind of a tension around that. If you get two avoidants, then they just both run away and nobody relates, right? Too anxious, they kind of merge into a blob and there's no polarity. So anxious and avoidant actually creates polarity. So that's why they often attract each other.
If they run at the same speed, then they can have a relationship. They just continually one's chasing the other, and they're all, and you know, it goes like that. So.
Yeah. The second misconception, just real fast, is that you're fixed. Yeah, the second misconception, just real fast, we won't go into it too long, is just that a lot of the books and the theories will say that you are fixed. In other words, if you were from a family that had a very particular patterning and you adopted a more anxious stance, then you will be anxious all the time and in every relationship. And from hundreds of conversations, maybe thousands at this point, we've found that that isn't the case, that people do get polarized back and forth. What's common is that if you're insecure, you will exhibit either of these. Now, some people tend to kind of have gravitational pull to one side. So some of you will notice that you're way more often one or the other. But it's equally possible that if somebody was more anxious than you, let's say, then you would start to become avoidant. Or if you're avoidant, someone became more avoidant than you, then you would actually polarize and become more anxious. So that does happen, and you can flip. So that's just another misconception.
Yeah. If someone knows that they're insecurely attached based on what they've learned here, what's the first thing they can do? What do you recommend?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing is to focus on the moment when your insecurity, whether it be avoidance or anxiety, is asserting itself. Focus on that moment and realize that the uncomfortable feeling that you have in that moment, which you think can only be resolved by your partner, like when she was running away at the ladder in the desert, I thought that Jennifer had to stop and come back towards me in order for my feeling to be resolved. Mm-hmm. And so the first thing is for me to realize that that uncomfortable feeling is caused by my pattern and has nothing to do with the action that Jennifer just took, which really is to distinguish my feelings from her actions. Those are two different things. You know, we relate to them often as the same. Like, I'm angry because you did that thing, and you did the thing, which means I'm angry, and there's no way of separating those two. So when you realize those are two different things, you realize you can't really trust your conclusions. If you have fear-based conclusions, like if you're an anxious patterner, know that if you think they don't love you, or they're not spending enough time with you, or their commitment is wavering, or you don't feel their loyalty, if you have any of those conclusions, don't trust them. Stop and realize that, well, some of that conclusion might come from my pattern and not from my partner. Mm-hmm. And then when you're feeling, the way the pattern works, the way insecure patterning works, is it takes normal ebbs and flows of relationship. Like, if you take a normal, healthy relationship, you're going to go apart and together, and apart and together, and it'll just
it's like a normal flow and cycle. Yeah,
it's going to take the normal signs of a normal relationship and label some of them like with warning bells that something is wrong. So the first thing is, when you hear a warning bell in your body, like an emotional warning bell, realize it's probably not a warning bell. There isn't probably something wrong at all. It's probably just your patterning. And that separation allows you now to feel the pattern as distinct from the partner. That's step one. Yeah,
I just want to double underline that, just for like it's a profound thing that I love that you shared, Bryan, which is distinguish your feelings and reactions from your partner's action. Like, if you get one thing from this webinar, and we're going to continue, but that is so key, that you don't make your reactions the truth. You actually look and fade them out and look at your own patterning and go and distinguish how you're reacting from how they're behaving. And that is just like the very first step. It's so key. It's so important.
And you know what happens, I think one misstep there is people will close their heart and say, like, oh, well, I'm kind of separate from you, and it doesn't matter what you do. You're not affecting me. And that's not really what we're talking about.
No, that's just being avoidant.
Yeah, exactly. What happens when you realize that your partner's actions are separate from your feelings, the the thing to automatically arise is compassion. Because in that moment, if I were to see her upset and running away, and realize that whatever these feelings are just my patterning, and it wasn't caused by her actions, suddenly I'm like really concerned for her. Like, oh no, she's actually in distress. And I have compassion for her feelings. And this woman that I love is like triggered and, you know, not being the version of herself that she wants to be. So I want to hold space for that. So that one way you know that you've separated it is that you start to have a natural compassion for your partner and their behavior. Yeah.
And that would be more normal in a love relationship. This is somebody that you love and care for. If you see them in distress and fear, a normal, secure patterning would be to care about that, to want to help them. If he's, you know, wanting a lot of attention and I'm thinking he's being needy because he's wanting a little kiss, instead of actually deciding that that's what's the case, I realize, oh, he's worried. He's worried that I might be leaving him or running away. Let me just give him a little reassurance. And it would occur to me to do that if I'm not reacting out of my patterning. And if I am reacting out of my patterning, it'll occur to me to make him wrong or to call him clingy or needy or to be afraid that I'm losing something. But his wanting love for me doesn't have anything to do with me losing my autonomy. Those things are very separate. So to separate them is really a really good first step.
Yeah, correlation.
Yeah.
Also, when you guys are in your pattern or anyone, we often feel overwhelm or terror. It's like life or death in the nervous system. It feels like that. What do you suggest people do? I mean, they can't really bring compassion if they're in terror. Whether in my business, I'm getting overwhelmed by your intrusion, or you're abandoning me. I feel no love from you right now. You must hate me. You're going to leave me. How can they go from the terror, life or death moment to compassion? Do you have some handholds?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in a way, a lot of this, and then we've got some resources that we're going to give you guys access to at the end that are really designed to do this next piece, which is, I just want to talk about, is like, it's really self-regulation, you know, because the pattern is going to tell you to handle it one way, but there is a better way of handling it in that moment. So if you're anxious, pattern's going to tell you to cling tighter to your partner, right? And you're going to look for evidence that you're being abandoned, right? And that you might be helpless. And so what you want to do in that moment is reduce the fear in your system, as you were saying, because there's terror going on, so that you can actually hear your intuition about what's really real. So how do you do that? Like, what do we recommend that you do in that moment is really self-regulation. And some of this came from you, Annie, and really deep, rich conversations. And what I'll say about it, and then I want to hear kind of what you say about it, because I think you have a lot to add, which is, you know, in the moment, for us, what we recommend to self-regulate is that you fade everything out but you. So you fade the situation, you fade out your partner, you fade out the supposed causes and everything else, and you just notice yourself and your reaction, right? You know, because in a way, you're all that's there. Like, you know, a favorite spiritual teacher of ours says that you are the universe that you formerly thought you were inside of. So all of this that you're witnessing is really just a mirror. So it's all you mirroring back to you what your state of consciousness is. So you fade everything else out. So that's the first thing. And then when you fade everything else out and you're just present with your own body, it will naturally begin to regulate itself if you let it. You know, what often prevents you from regulating is having your mind like caught up in the future and making your state dependent on that future, or making your state dependent on your partner. When you realize that it's just you bring this presence into your own body. And what we'll do is we'll teach you. I mean, I won't go through it all now because it's like a 10-minute meditation. But what I do is a 10-minute meditation that brings me back into myself, and actually can do it in the moment and do like 30 seconds of it and fade them out, and really use some visual imagery that I use, and really calm my body and calm my nervous system, remind myself that I'm loved and lovable, remind myself of my right to be separate and still belong, and a few of the other, what we will call them, organismic rights, and And then I realize the truth of those things and I start to self-regulate. Now we've got a meditation that walks you through that I have created with, it's got my voice on it, it's got some music, it's got imagery, it's got like incepting these really, really good rewirings of beliefs that might not have been fully developed in you. So this meditation is kind of like a handhold that you can use in the moment, but it's really just designed that if you're having that anxious or avoidant patterning, and you've got some of that fear running your system, to just relax the nervous system and regulate yourself so that you're not then blaming it on your partner or really destroying the relationship by either actually engulfing your partner and really creating the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
You could take a secure person, and if you're all the way needy, they're going to reflect back to you your neediness, and then you're going to feel that unlove. Same with the avoidance.
Yeah, become self-fulfilling. Exactly.
Right.
So one of the reasons this works is that the pattern has you focused on your partner's on your partner satisfying your need. So you like the body actually naturally self-regulates itself, and what stops that is when your mind separates from that. You get a separation in your body and mind.
Yeah,
your mind goes to the future, right? So if you change your priority from I need my partner to satisfy this thing to instead of trying to get my partner to do a different behavior right now, I'm going to try to get my nervous system to settle and self-regulate. That change of priority is absolutely essential. And then using the processes that, that Jennifer were talking about really well.
And we've got one for each pattern. We've got one for the avoidant and one for the.
And they're going to get it?
And they're going to get it. Yeah. We'll tell you kind of towards the end how to access it.
So earlier we said you can't really trust yourself, in this moment. You really can't trust some of your conclusions. And so how can you tell the difference between your pattern telling you bad information about your partner's intent versus when it's actually your intuition telling you the truth about your partner's unspoken inner world that maybe is problematic? Like, particularly if you're avoidant and you're with an anxious person, then, obviously you're doing your avoidant pattern, they're doing their anxious pattern. And
like you might be right about some of that. They might be pulling away from you, and your intuition might be correct in sensing that.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you know the difference between correct intuition
and
the pattern, right?
And one thing that you should know is that intuition never speaks to you with a fear voice. So when you have fear in your system, you cannot accurately tell the difference. But once you self-regulate, and instead of trying to ask yourself, wait, is this them or me or what's going on while you're all dysregulated, regulate yourself first, drain the fear from the system, and then you actually can hear your intuition, and then it becomes trustable. Because your intuition is always trustable. You just can't hear it when you've got fear running in the system. So
I got a great definition for intuition. It's your already successful future self leaning back in time and whispering what to do next.
Yeah,
exactly.
I love that.
And so your already successful future self is not afraid. So it doesn't freak out. It doesn't go like, oh my God, they're leaving you, run. It doesn't say stuff like that. So if that's what you're hearing, you need to quiet down, and then your intuition might say something more like, it's possible that this isn't the right relationship for you. But it won't be afraid, even if it reaches that confusion.
Two more things I just want to add to the regulation story.
Yes, please, because you have a lot to share on this.
Yeah, no, you guys totally nailed it. What we're trying to do is help the individual create and generate safety for themselves instead of relying on their partner to give them safety. If they do something, then I'll feel better. So finding a breathing practice that grounds you, anything, Vipassana, Anapana, some breathing practice, you have to get out of, you're having a feeling, and then there's a story about the feeling. And the story has a narrative that has justification, explanation, or blame, or reasons. Anything that has those narratives characteristics, you're in the story about the feeling, not the feeling itself. The only way to get safe is to actually go in, through your breathing, feel your body, and find the feeling, which is a set of sensations in your body.
Which is so much easier to do when you fade it all out, and all that you're left with is you and your feelings.
Yep.
So true.
Feel your body for the feelings, find out where they are, sit with them, maybe ask what they need. I mean, I've noticed for especially the anxious type, if you ask yourself when you're overwhelmed or angry or scared, what do I need right now? Fade everything out and then handle that need. Like take care of it as if you were the parent of your little child. that is the fastest way to get self-regulated, generate your own safety, and be a grown-up adult to meet your partner in adult space instead of regressed child space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love what you guys are saying. I do want to know, like,
yeah, go ahead.
Do you have any specific advice if someone knows that their partner is avoidant or anxious? What do you recommend they do? I mean, everyone's probably already figured out what their partner is. Do you have recommendations?
Yeah, for sure. And first of all, I wanted to say that the corollary to that, what do I need question, what are my needs right now?
For the
avoidant is can be, where am I needed? Where am I needed right now? And that can shortcut that avoidant, because it's like you realize, oh, I actually do have commitments and loves and I do want to meet, and I also don't want to meet this fake need. You know, that's being displayed by an anxious pattern. But so yeah, if your partner is exhibiting one of these patterns, the first thing is to clean, to make sure that you are not triggered by it. And then you can love them in it. You can be compassionate. You know, first of all, I would, when they're not triggered, I would talk to them about self-regulation. And then when I think the most effective thing to do, if I notice that Jennifer's in a pattern moment, is I just stop everything and I'm just with her. And whatever I was trying to do, or I just drop my agenda, so because right now the agenda is regulation, and I just try to be in service to that.
Yeah, I mean, I often find that if one or the other of us is dysregulated, you know, you can feel it in their body if you switch into someone's nervous system, right? And they are dysregulated. You know, they're operating with that fear, and you can feel like their heart is racing, their voice is really fast, like they're tense. You can see the tension in their face and their body. You know, I do this with children too. It's like when, you know, children are in that fear and they're about to cry or about to tantrum, or they're worried about being hurt. If you relax your nervous system and regulate yourself and really go out of your way to kind of really, like, whatever tone that you were at, just to bring your energy and slow everything way down, then the mirror neurons in your partner, which are especially sensitive to your nervous system, can start to regulate. You know, sometimes when Bryan and I are you know, having a conflict and I'm really angry or hurt or upset, I mean, he'll do this beautiful thing. Well, he'll just keep his voice really loving and really calm and really non-reactive. And I may still have a little bit of energy in me, and I may still kind of like, well, why hey, you know, but I can't keep that up and be out of rapport too long before my own nervous system is already, even without my conscious control, like not even my rational mind is actually in control there. Just my body and his body want to be resonating together, want to be relaxing. Your mirror neurons are wanting to take over, and you can actually help regulate your partner. But it would require you to not in that moment also be exhibiting your pattern. You know, if you both are in this, I mean, really what we're going to talk to you about later is coming to our workshop, because we actually will help you in the context of your relationship start to unwind that patterning that each of you triggers in each other. Because what happens is you'll escalate, right? One person will engulf, the other one will run away, then they'll feel more rejected and feel more clingy, and then the other one will run away farther and get more angry. And you can actually create a really nasty escalation cycle, as many of you probably have noticed. If you've dealt with these patterns at all in your lives. And, you know, when you work with someone like you, Annie, I'm sure, and in the work that we do, especially when we can get both partners together, we actually help slow it down and unwind it in real time with them, which is some magic that we really love to do. And
yeah, I've watched you guys with couples, and you actually give them options that are not occurring in triggered states. So they're option arrangements. And they have another way to respond that never would have occurred to them otherwise. And that's what I find.
And a way of seeing them, you know, you can't hear your partner saying, well, you're just being avoidant, you're just being clingy. But having a third party who's outside of the dynamic, who has no vested interest, whose nervous system is regulated, give you insight into what's happening, you automatically are able to listen and give that voice credibility, because you don't have the kind of trigger with that person that you would your own partner. So it's just so valuable to have that. You know, we suffer too long alone in our relationships. You know, in general, we could spend way less time if we would take advantage of people like us and you and some of the technology out there that's designed to help you do this by giving you that third party perspective to help you see your way out of it. And having someone give you those handholds is so important. And we're just not taught to take advantage of that. We think we need to solve it all by ourselves. And but a little small investment of time and energy can save you decades and a lot of destruction in your relationship, frankly, because these patterns really can take root. And you can nip them in the bud quite easily with, you know, a little outside help.
You guys know that I specialize in conflict resolution. It's what I focus on, even though I call myself a love coach. And that's what I really love about your work, is you've realized that that's the money place to focus. Because if you can help them with that, you can help them do all the other things they want to do in their relationship. I'd love to hear more about your ideas on conflict resolution and how people can learn more about it. I mean, you guys have some powerful frames and models that I've never seen anywhere else in all the books I've read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the overview is that you can't solve a conflict with the consciousness that created it. So, you know, and if conflicts in your relationship are horrible and you don't want to work on them, I mean, you really need you need a way of raising the consciousness so that you can have conversations that might be conflicts in a way that feels great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you know, we have a unique opportunity when we're in a relationship to take a look at the conflicts that come up, to be mirrored back at, you know, because, you know, your partner, you show both the best of you and the worst of you. And so they have like a front row seat. And that conflict usually is like your dharmic kind of theme that you came into this world to look at and to heal. And so to us, you need an effective process that's, one, effective at resolving the conflict for good, not just repairing the hurt feelings, and doing the whole thing over and over again, which some stuff that's out there in the realm of relationship really is only good at this first part. Like, how do we restore ourselves back to at least, you know, being on speaking terms without actually changing the pattern itself? So we're still going to do the pattern. We're just going to get better at, you know, saying sorry after it occurs. Right. And so a good resolution process would actually repair and restructure the relationship so you're not having the pattern show up. So that's number one. I mean, number two, you want a conflict resolution process where both people get their needs met, which isn't lopsided. You know, often we want to say, blame one or the other. It's like, oh, this is yours. You need to work on this, or this one's mine.
That's your stuff.
That's your stuff, right? And so
that was both your stuff.
And it's always both. You know, we love Bert Hellinger, and for those of you that might not have heard of him, he wrote a book called Love's Hidden Symmetry. And we're just big believers that a conflict, you know, you can't have a conflict unless both people are actually in it. And there's a hidden symmetry that's present, that's creating the reactivity. Otherwise, one person would just be relaxed while the other person is going through it. And so you really need to get both parties and both needs looked at and met in that conflict, and not have it be one-sided.
And anxious, if you have an anxious pattern, you're in the habit of disguising or hiding your needs and then complaining that they're not getting met. And so if it's typical that an anxious, insecure person in the conflict just like tries to meet the needs of the other person and then avoids getting their own needs met. And so their whatever conflict resolution, and then they actually pride themselves on being better at conflict resolution because they're like, oh, I don't need anything. You know, we've given you what you need, and now we've resolved the conflict. And so if that person's needs aren't getting met, though, then the conflict resolution actually doesn't work. It's not conflict.
It comes back again.
Yeah, it comes back and again and again and again. Yeah. So that's the second criteria. The third, to me, is that it feels good to both partners, so that the conversation is one that you want to have.
Yeah. Right.
It's not like, oh, we got to process. We have to do this conflict resolution. If you're both avoiding it, then that's not going to work. So that's like criteria number 3. And criteria number 4 for a really good, effective one is that it gets underneath the surface of the issue, right? Where you're not just at the kind of victimology layer where, you know, there's a perpetrator and a victim, or there's a complaint and defensiveness, right? And you're just talking about this surface. You really want to get under the issue and feel safe enough for both partners to be completely honest, vulnerable, and loved. And that's the kind of thing that we feel is really missing in a lot of what we see out there in love and relationship. And it's the kind of thing that, you know, Bryan and I actually teach, you know, a conflict resolution process that has these 4 criteria that when people have been in our Evolving Love, they've been saying things like, oh my God, we've been having this fight for years. This is the first time we've actually finished having that pattern for good, and written us letters about how, you know, how amazed they were at our ability to create a process that they could follow, not even one that required us there every time, but that they could follow, that they actually were excited to have, that literally led to the restructuring or repatterning. And that's really what we're about. And that's what we're creating a body of work around, is that.
And that's, you know, that's why we designed the Evolving Love workshop, because there's we wanted to really share their conflict resolution process. I just want to run through real quick what those criteria were again. You know, 1 is it actually resolves the conflict for good, permanently. 2, everybody gets their needs met. 3, it feels good. And I don't think you'll actually believe this one until you've really seen it in our workshops, that these conflict resolution
like, oh
problems,
boy, do we get to do one?
They're like giggling. It's just fantastic. And 4, it really gets underneath the surface to the real issues. And we have a workshop coming up in San Francisco on November 4th for singles, and November 5th and 6th for couples. So is it all right, Annie, if we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I want to hear. I just want to tell everyone, I went to their first workshop and my mind was blown. They literally read every single cutting edge relationship book that they could find, and ones that I recommended. And then they were like, we need to invent models that are beyond this. And they actually went and did that. And I went to the workshop and I watched what they did. And I don't see anyone who systematized this game other than them. I mean, I can do it one-on-one and intuitive, but even I haven't got a model that I can just sort of ship out and give to the world. I think this what you guys are creating here is the cutting edge for relationship technology going on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. And I'm going to be at this workshop. I would love to hear more about it. I flew in for it. So tell us what we're going to learn.
Well, imagine coming to an island in the San Francisco Bay for a deeply transformational experience and spending a day or 2 with us and getting our individual attention on the aspects of your relationship and your love life that matter most to you. And then you can imagine having the stage set for you in the most gentle and respectful way for you and your partner, if you're there together, or you by yourself, to permanently resolve your biggest recurring conflict without getting triggered. One of our past participants who was in the last workshop, he said he couldn't believe it. I think what he said is that we dove in and we actually solved the most important issue in our whole relationship. We've been married for years now, and I just assumed we weren't ever going to solve it. I think most of us do that. We just assume that, oh, well, we're just going to live with that one forever, but on balance, everything's okay. He said he was crying his eyes out because he had never heard her say and acknowledge the things that he didn't think she even had any idea about. So that gives you kind of a flavor for what people experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and Annie, we're so excited to have you there because you'll be adding your kind of special wisdom to this. And there's a rumor we may even have Eben, but we'll see.
Eben's coming. You're going to get Annie and Eben in our
great
studies on relationships.
So you have a trifecta. You have a quad. Is there a name for 4?
Quadfecta sounds great.
Quadfecta. I don't know. You have 4 incredible beings that you can barely get all in one space in one room, working with you live to really, really change and rewrite that relational DNA for good. So imagine bringing the most persistent pattern you have and realizing that you could leave having really resolved it. And whether you're single, we've got a day for singles and we've got 2 days for people in relationship, that either way, we're going to help you to rewrite that. So I don't know, one of the problems with relationships that we are trying to solve is that what we notice is that people are trying to solve their conflicts while they're triggered. and have basically no resources to act like a grown-up, right? We're like tantruming like we're 2 and 3 and 5 and 17. You know, we're not actually bringing our best selves to the most complex challenges of our relationship. And so
it's kind of around Olympics while you're starving and sleeping.
Right. And this is just the state of affairs, that we think we're supposed to be able to do this in that state because that's when it's most needed. And at Evolving Love, what we do is we create a space of like fun and lightness and love and care. And from that space, right, anything is possible. And when you have people that are just weavers and magicians at creating that, even in the face of your trigger, then, you know, you're going to be able to source some of your own wisdom from it, but you're also going to have the wider perspectives of, you know, the 4 of us. And, you know, several couples in our last retreat were giggling and laughing as they were talking about topics that previously they thought were taboo. Like they just couldn't even bring up these subjects without it feeling, you know, painful and horrible to them. So, you know, we have this system for resolving conflicts and doing some of the inner work too, as an individual, if you're single. But we have this really methodology that we've developed and these practices that we've developed that we're going to give you, and a really comprehensive manual that you're going to get that's really meaty and juicy that you can take home and integrate. And almost every couple from our last retreat said that they were actually able to solve their biggest conflict and felt that it just wouldn't come back. And that was, you know, just in the few days that we had them at the retreat.
I was there and I wished Eben was there because I thought maybe we could have solved our biggest conflict.
Yeah. Well, let us do that.
Yeah, this time. You.
And I just want to point out, you guys are actually going to be using your intelligence and imagination on the couples live at the seminar, working one-on-one, which is just not available in any other way. It's these guys, you can't afford these guys. They're super pricey.
Well, you'd have to pay us to do one-on-one work with you. So, I mean, we've made this workshop so accessible. It's like a few $100s to have like 4 of the top relationship experts on the planet working with you to evolve the way you love. And if you hired you, Annie, or us, it would be thousands of dollars and several months of therapy work. Would be worth it, by the way. And certainly call us for that one-on-one work if you can't come in this group environment. But we can actually do a lot of it with you live. At an event like this. You'd be surprised what we can teach you how to do in your own relationship, and so that you only need us in a crisis, right?
You know, I sometimes think we have like a relationship angel and a relationship devil inside of us, you know, and we reserve just the worst parts of ourselves for our partners, and also the best and the sweetest and most loving. And so one thing we really do at the workshop is we allow the angel in you to come out and to start handling situations that previously the devil side of you used to handle. And we also, you know, soothe and relax the fears and concerns that led to that devil side even existing in the first place, so they don't come out so destructive and difficult. Because if the angel in you starts to be more in charge of your relationship, and just everything gets more creative and beautiful and sweet, and that's kind of the environment that we create. We teach you how to coax that angel out in the situations that previously you let the devil be in charge of. So that's another way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about like what's actually going down? What are the actual workshops, the days, some details of what they're going to learn, so we can.
Yeah, totally. So it's November 4th. We're going to spend 1 full day for those people that are not currently in a relationship. Because what we found was some of the content and some of the focus is slightly different if you're in a relationship than if you're not. There's some things that aren't relevant to you if you don't have a partner that you're partnered with, that you're working out a conflict with, because you might be single at the time. So we're going to focus 1 whole day just on you, preparing you to do the inner work that you need to be like as evolved as you can be, to set up your relationship from the get-go, right? And then 2 full days, as you know, for those of you in relationships, working on it, working through some of the patterns that you see in real time happening in your relationship. So that's some of what we're going to do. So some of what you're going to learn. So 1, you're going to practice. We're going to give you 3 evolutionary conversations that will raise the consciousness of your relationship. And these are incredible. We don't just teach you how to circle the drain and be in the muck, which a lot of therapists will kind of keep you in. We actually help you to raise up and out by being in the inquiry of really high quality practices and conversations. So we're going to teach you literally like step by step how to have those conversations and what those are. 2, we're going to learn more about what to do when your partner is, when you're triggered, right? And how to de-escalate without giving up your truth, right? Where you're not having to self-betray in order to de-escalate, which a lot of people feel when they're trying to, okay, let's just get everybody to relax. Let me just tell them what they want to hear. We're actually going to teach you how to de-escalate in a different way. So that's number 2. And that's an incredible skill to have, whether you're in a relationship or not. 3, we're going to design your ideal love story and practice embodying it together with your partner. We're going to kind of custom create the context or vision for your relationship. And this is such a beautiful conversation to have both with your partner and just to have as the context you want to bring to your next relationship if you're not in one, right? Next 4, we're going to resolve once and for all your most painful recurring patterns. So actually maybe not all of them, but we'll take one, let's say, bring one. And you'll notice that if you can resolve that one, the rest will be easy because we're going to show you how to do it for yourselves when we're not around. So we're going to resolve that one once and for all. 5, we're going to make sure your resolved conflicts stay resolved so that it's not just a Band-Aid, right? How do we actually do a more permanent install of this new kind of relational DNA, as it were? And so we're going to teach you how to do that. And then we're going to talk about why being good at conflict resolution. This is something that I think you'll talk about a lot, which is why being good at it is the way it's normally taught can actually hurt your relationship. Yeah. And then how actually to use it in such a way and really want to get good at it in a way that'll help your relationship, right? Instead of doing it in the ways that are actually hurting, let's teach you the ways that actually make you good at it and create that crucible for your transformation.
Yeah, I've seen taught people how to get their conflict to be in service of their intimacy.
We actually get excited in our relationship to help ourselves resolve them because we just see that they're the source of a lot of our growth. It's like the next line of development of me being a more evolutionary human being is inside that last conflict. And rather than our relationship feel really heavy, like we're processing, it's like an inspiring dialogue of 2 people wanting to help one another grow. And that is available to you. It can be taught, but you're not taught. So it's no wonder that we're not in our relationships knowing how to do this.
But and it's not that we're fetishizing conflict.
No, on the contrary.
For me, it's happened many times that after we resolved a conflict, after I've resolved a conflict with Jennifer using the process that we use, there's actually a part of myself that I love more fully and appreciate and am more grateful for than I wasn't even aware of, that I didn't even know existed prior to the conflict. So it's like this conflict resolution has this quality of continually discovering more beautiful parts of myself that I didn't know existed. And, imagine if conflict resolution had that quality for you.
Yeah. And even above, is conflict resolution is only a small piece of what we're going to do. We're also going to help you detect your partner's highest evolutionary path and learn how to guide them to it. So imagine being like both the student and the teacher, the guide, an enlightened one, and the kind of supplicant to learn to surrender into your partner's kind of knowing. Both those roles, I think both people in relationships should hold. And we're going to teach you how to detect what that path is. What is the developmental piece that your partner needs? And how can you lovingly guide them to it so that they become the person they've always dreamed of being? Right. And then lastly, we'll transcend the normal cycle of complaint and defensiveness. Right. We've talked about anxious and avoidant, but it's only one of the many, many patterns that people do. Another really major one is complaint and defense, complaining and defensiveness. So we're going to give you like a path to transcend that.
That's money.
So we also want to tell you how you participate, because it's in a way it's much more than just a day or a 2-day workshop. And first of all, the way to participate is you want to click on the button that we're about to give you.
Oh yeah.
So that you can go, because we have $100 discount for you that we're going to tell you about.
Oh, great.
Just for you guys. So in a minute you'll see a button that says register now.
Yeah, there it is, right on the right.
You want to click that button so you can start to register. And And then the very first thing you'll do is you'll get your love profile, which is a transformational experience in itself. It's a way of getting feedback from your partner, from your friends, and even from your ex-lovers. If you're so brave as to use it that way, we really recommend you do, to completely see how you are in a relationship and as a evolutionary relationship in a different way. And this has been, and we got emails from people who get their love profile. They start to fill it out and they say, already I got my money's worth.
I got the whole value of the whole program, and I haven't even shown up to the first day.
It hasn't even started yet.
Love profile.
Exactly. And you want to do it now so that you can get some feedback, and so we can go over it, either in the day or soon
or right after.
Yeah, exactly. And so the second piece is the 1 day deep dive for singles and a 2 day deep dive for couples. That's November 4th or November 5th and 6th. And you just get lots of practice time with both your partner or without your partner. You get practice time with the comfort of strangers. Some conversations, it's better if the first couple times you have it, you actually practice with someone who you're not as triggered by or whatever. So we give you that practice, and you get lots of focused one-on-one guidance from Jennifer, from me, of course from Annie and from Evan, because they'll be there too. And really through everyone there. It's just an amazing supportive environment.
Yeah, and you're welcome to come to all 3 days. So if you're wondering, oh, I'm single, can I come to the couples one because there's so many skills and tools that I want to learn for my next relationship? Then absolutely yes.
Lots of people do, yeah.
Yeah, and lots of people already have signed up and are going to do that. And then there are some couples that are like, oh, can I come to the singles day and learn, some of the inner work that I need to do, because that's super valuable. So you can do both. So please feel free to come to all 3 days. But we are going to focus on those two groups in those 2 days. Yeah.
Plus, you'll get the live exercises in the workbook, which are meant to last for an entire year after the workshop. We actually have an email sequence for you that accompanies the course with very practical daily, weekly, and monthly rituals. So you get in your inbox a reminder of like, hey, here's something that you can do today. It takes 10 seconds that will maintain the evolutionary love relationship that you started in the workshop. And it's designed to help you fully embody and integrate this material so you can really bring it into all your relationships. And you'll also get the user's guide to monogamy and non-monogamy, which is how to keep your sex life hot and drama-free, no matter what kind of structure you've got. So fun. We had so much fun putting that together.
This was juicy material, and we had time in our last workshop to actually spend a little session on this.
Yeah.
And it's just something that we'll eventually write a whole book about, but you're going to get the guide, the initial guide to that, which is really fun because, all of this talk of relating, there's also the whole realm of like the sex life that you have and the love that you're creating on a physical level. And like, how can you make that hot, right? Because a lot of people complain about, what happens in your relationship when you start to lose that spark, and what do you do? Well, we have a lot to say about what you do to create that spark. So,
and then once a week, we can do office hours too. So once a week, we're going to be available for weekly office hours on our Evolving Love Facebook group to give you more one-on-one support as you go on. And you'll get to belong to a community of like-minded seekers and lovers who can not only learn from, but you can also share your experience with. So that all of that's included in the workshop. You get the love profile, the in-person days, the manual, the email sequence with the practices every week and month and quarter, and then of course the office hours as well.
Yeah, and it's like we wanted to make it super accessible. We've done high-end retreats that were thousands of dollars. Our one-on-one coaching, if you were going to pay us, would probably be $7,000 over the course of 5 or 6 months. And it would be totally worth it because there's no better investment that you can make in the quality of your life than to improve the quality of your love and your relationship, because it changes everything. But instead of taking 5 or 6 years of traditional therapy or 5 or 6 months with us one-on-one, we're asking you to kind of spend a couple, 2-3 days, an incredible investment. 1 day for singles, 2 days for couples. And so that is really what we want you to consider as one of the best things you could do for yourself, the biggest gifts you could give. It's a rare and unique opportunity. We haven't been doing a lot of live events, and we don't have any more on the calendar for 2016. And so this is an opportunity to actually let us kind of get in there with you. So that's Evolving Love, November 4th. There's a button on the right. If you haven't seen it already, go ahead and click on it. You'll see all sorts of details. A lot of your questions will be answered on those pages.
So the price of the couples workshop is $595 per person for 2 days, and for all of that other stuff as well. And for the singles workshop is $495 for 1 day. The workshop's November 4th for singles and 5th and 6th for couples, and that's coming up pretty soon, so in just a couple of weeks. So we want to give you an early bird discount if you can register between now and Sunday night at midnight of $100. So you get an extra $100 off. That means the couples workshop's only $495. The singles is only $395. It's a very, very small amount of money.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So couples coaching.
Even Landmark, which hasn't changed their pricing since like the 80s, is like $500 or $600, right? Yeah.
Couples coaches, therapists, counselors have been really reaching out to us to learn what we're doing because they see the results. And this is what one professional couple counselor had to say after taking the workshop this year. I feel like I've been waiting for this information all my life. My lens of what a relationship can be has widened and expanded. I now have a definition and a knowing of what an extraordinary and evolutionary relationship looks like and feels like. And I know the way I do relationship and the way I work with my clients is forever changed. And that's what we want for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just take us up on this offer. Spend 3 days with us and see if we can completely evolve and change the patterns in your life that are creating issue for you and evolve the way you love. Like deep dive with us in this dialogue. You'll be in a room full of evolutionary lovers asking themselves these questions. So we'd love to have you with us. And we also, want to give you access to some of the resources that are totally free that are going to help you with the self-regulation and a maintenance routine that's designed to rewire some of the underdeveloped beliefs that are likely at the core of why you have your anxious and avoidant patterning. The organismic rights by Wilhelm Reich really discovered these as meaningful developmental phases that people went in. And what we've done is created some exercises and meditations that help you to rewrite and really develop, like almost like reparenting yourself so that you have a more developed organismic set of rights, like the right to need, which a lot of the anxious people don't have a fully developed right to need, so they get needy and clingy. And for the avoidance, they don't have a fully developed right to be separate, to be independent and still belong. And that right to be independent, if it's not actually developed, you'll continue that patterning. So just, we're going to give you access to that just for coming to this webinar. And that $100 discount, we turned it back on. That discount we had turned off. And just for you guys on this webinar, we decided we wanted to give you guys a special discount just for being here and for taking action and listening to this webinar and really being a yes to being an evolutionary lover. And so that discount will be available to you, but we're going to turn it back off in a day.
Sunday
so it's midnight. Yeah, you have until midnight
on
Sunday. Yeah.
So at the beginning, we promised you this free download. And so to get the download, here's what you're going to do. You're going to text me on my phone, which is 415-810-9769. And we'll put this in the chat too.
Yeah.
And there's a few things that you want to say in the text. You want to say your name. You want to say the word attached. You want to say what city you live in. And you want to say your email address. So your name, the word attached, the city you live in, and your email address. And the number again is 415-810-9769. One of the reasons why we want you to text us is that I'm going to give you the link right in your text on your phone. So you'll have it on your phone, and when you get triggered, you can remember that you have that and play it on the phone. Either listen or put your headphones in and re-regulate yourself. So we want it like instant access so that you can really use it. So again, here's the number. It's 415-810-9769. Text your name, the word attached, city you live in, and your email address.
And I just put that in the chat window so that you do it. And so do that. And if for those of you that are out of town, we had a couple people when we were sending them this resource, said, hey, I'm international, do I have to do this? You can also email us and request this via the same email that invited you to this webinar, and that's Bryan and Jennifer at california-leadership.com. You don't need to remember that because it should be in the email that you received to give you an invitation to this. But in case it wasn't, Bryan and Jennifer at california-leadership.com. Either of those will give you the resource, either texting Bryan or emailing us. Please take advantage of that. You've listened to this. There's some amazing resources. They're free. Enjoy.
Yeah.
So this meditation helps you regulate.
Self-regulate.
Crazy.
You know what's fun about these is that these are actually literally the words that Jennifer and I have been saying to ourselves to heal ourselves of the last bits of these insecure patternings. Mm-hmm. We notice that we're like, oh, I'm feeling that pattern, and then we go and we kind of talk ourselves through something. And so what we did is just put a microphone and talk you through exactly the same thing that we used for ourselves that has been working for the last several years for us. So it's really intimate to be sharing this with you. And Jennifer, we use Jennifer's voice because her voice is so amazing.
Thank you.
And so we used her voice and put a little music to it. It's really quite powerful. I think you're gonna like listening to these meditations. And good, there's lots of texts are coming in now already.
Good. So. Yeah, it's wonderful. And somebody's asking, love this. This is so compelling. Come to the UK. So I'm seeing a couple of people saying that. So thank you. If we get enough of you saying you want it in the UK, we will come. And so, make sure to let us know. Right now, all we have on the calendar is SF, and we've got hotels in the area if you want to fly in. So please do that. If you have questions, now is the time. You can ask us questions.
We can
but make sure that you text us or email us to get the free resources anyway, because those are wonderful. And click on the button that's on the right to see the page that'll tell you a little bit more about the workshop. Because we'd love to have you. It would be some of the best few $100s that you spend. You could spend that on a couple movies and some dinner, or you could come with us for 3 days and have your just mind blown with Annie, with Evan, and with anyone else. So let me just see if there's any questions. Put them in the chat box. Just for Google Hangout, it's easier for us to answer questions there. And if we don't have any, we'll sign off soon. But Annie, this is really fun. I'm glad
before you guys go to questions, I just want to say. Every workshop you guys have done in other cities has sold out. I remember, and you have a waiting list. And this is probably going to sell out too. So I really want to encourage people, if there's any part of you that thinks this might be for you, this is the workshop. I'm flying in for it. This is the cutting edge. This is the best it gets. These are the people I go to when I got shit that I can't figure out. So I'm recommending the best here. And I guarantee you, your relationship won't be recognizable after this experience. They're serious about conflict resolution and literally taking your relationship closer towards the dream that you know is possible, the one that you keep fighting for. This is the map. This is the map to that. So I just want to let you guys know that I'm going to be there teaching, guest teaching. My partner's going to be there. And I would love to hear the questions that people have for you guys.
Yeah. We had somebody asking for details, so I posted those November 4th. And then click on the button and you should be able to see the details that go way into it. We've got an FAQ section. It goes into all of that. Some people thanking us. Thank you, Laura. Mm-hmm. We got the one on the UK. I gave you how to get the resources. So people are asking about how to get the resources. I'd like to be involved with you and maybe do workshops or something in the UK. Another one for UK. That's great. Mm-hmm. Fabulous stuff. I've read the books on this, but applying it is good. I feel that if someone is actually suffering something like narcissistic personality disorder or sociopath, if you're normal, you can think it's avoidant attachment theory when really they have a more serious issue. Absolutely, Laura. We were saying that there's a continuum on anxious and avoidant patterning. And when you go way far over, even beyond the patterning of anxious and avoidant, which could be, semi-healthy, and into the realm of actually being a diagnosable pathological disorder, the avoidant can go all the way to sociopath where they have no empathy, right? And the anxious can also, exhibit some narcissistic, right, where everything's about them and their needs, right? So that's absolutely true. So really take all of that seriously if you see this patterning and take a look and come see us in this workshop and see if we can help work with you and get you to kind of a more healthy place. Wonderful. So I don't think we have any other questions. Thank you for the beautiful comments. Come to the workshop, click the link. We'll also send it to you via email. We're getting some texts in now, so send us if you want those free resources. We'd love for you to have them. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Annie.
Yeah, thank you, Annie. I can't wait to have you in the room with us. We're going to have some fun together, evolving the way people love in a really deep and rich environment. So thank you.
Thank you guys for laying down a path. You know, as a couple, this is kind of what, you know, between you and me, we do this work at home in our relationship, and then whatever we've mapped out, we try to share with other people. And I know everything you're teaching is tried and tested in the laboratory of your love, and only what worked makes it out. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bryan and Jennifer. You will email everybody with all the details, and will they get a replay as well if they want to hear it again?
Yeah. Everyone on this call will get a replay, and you'll get the details on the workshop. If you didn't click the button, you'll get it in your inbox. But you have until midnight to take advantage of the $100 discount, so please do that. We want to reward you for taking action. And yeah, have a great rest of your night or day, whichever time zone you're in. And hopefully we'll see you in San Francisco, November 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Yeah, hope to see you there.
Yeah, ciao. Good night.
Left today.
The same email we used to say time's almost up to Annie to send to her list on Sunday.
Oh. Oops.